Your Seattle Kraken continue to make history in the NHL playoffs, and this morning we're getting a glimpse at Seattle's storied hockey past. In his book, When It Mattered Most, author Kevin Tyson details the story of the Seattle Metropolitans, who beat the Montreal Canadiens in 1917 to become the first American team to win the Stanley Cup and were crowned world champs. Now, Seattle was on the verge of winning a second championship in 1919, but a global pandemic forced that series to be canceled. Joining us now, author Kevin Tyson. Good morning to you.
Morning.
And it is incredible. We were just talking how incredible it is to see Seattle on fire for hockey once again. And I say once again because the Seattle Metropolitans were definitely the hottest ticket in town 100 years ago. And there are a lot of similarities between the Metropolitans and the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, absolutely. Both second-year teams when they made their run. Both, ensemble stars, right? Just a lot of depth, a lot of different players that could score in different ways. And, the Metropolitans really closed the deal, and it's going to be fun to see how the Kraken, play over the next couple weeks.
So you spent 6 years researching and writing this book, and in it you detailed not only the incredible story of the Seattle Metropolitans, but kind of give us a glimpse of Seattle around the World War I time. So what was it that stood out to you about Seattle at that time?
Yeah, it's booming. It's really the first massive population growth. Industry is peaking, right? You have Boeing, you have UPS, Nordstrom, all of them are starting to take hold and grow, and there's a lot going on in the world, obviously, with, the war is a couple years in. America's trying to figure out what role it's going to play in the war, and it was a fascinating time, really.
So tell us about the stars of the Seattle Metropolitans. Like, who really stood out, and what brand of hockey did they play?
Yeah, so it was a teamwork game, right? And you have 3 Hall of Famers, right? So you have Frank Foyston, who's, a winger, and he's the MVP of the PCHA in 1917. You have Jack Walker, who's arguably the best defensive player in hockey then. Hap Holmes is the goalie. And then Bernie Morris is the scoring star. He's the center, and he really should be in the Hall of Fame. I think he lost control of his life a little bit late, and he probably isn't in because of those things. But it really was a team where you couldn't stop them.
And it's amazing, too, that a global pandemic would play a role for both franchises.
Yeah.
The Kraken launched during COVID, and the Metropolitans would have won that second Stanley Cup in 1919. They were 1 game away, but then they canceled the final game, or what could have been the final game for Seattle in that series. And on the Stanley Cup, it says Seattle versus Montreal 1919 series not completed. It's incredible.
Yeah, so the Metropolitans were blowing out the Canadiens, and Game 3 is arguably, Game 4, the greatest game ever played. It's a 0-0 tie that goes through 2 overtimes, and then they have to replay it because of a big fight that takes place about how to handle the tie, and they're up 3-0 in the third of the replayed Game 4, and Montreal stages an incredible comeback and scores really late to win it. And then, the Metropolitans aren't that worried. They know that Game 5 is going to be played by their rules, and they've outscored the Canadiens 14-2 in those games. And, they wake up the morning of the game, and 5 of the Canadians are sick with the Spanish flu, and one of the Canadian stars ends up dying a few days later, and when he passes away, they cancel the series.
Okay, so the Kraken have the Seattle Metropolitans championship banner hanging from the rafters at Climate Pledge Arena. They've gone to great lengths to honor Seattle's hockey history. So what do you think we should take away from the Seattle Metropolitans and their legacy?
I mean, really, they're the taproot of our sports community. The way that they played the game, the way that they handled themselves, you see all of that stretched through what we have today. And, it's super interesting to me. So Pete Muldoon is the head coach of the Metropolitans. Frank Foyston's the star player. He becomes the head coach of the Seattle Eskimos, and his star player is John Hubriggs, whose son Bob obviously led the Huskies to the Final Four and was the Sonics general manager, right? So you have this thread of how to compete and how to play sports that runs all the way through, and you still see it today, right? It's just super athletic, it's teamwork, it's competing the right way. And truthfully, the Canadians wanted to concede the cup to the Metropolitans in 1919, and we wouldn't accept it. We said we aren't going to win.
You got to win it on the ice.
Yeah, off the ice. So, I mean, again, it's the way that the sport is supposed to be played, and the Kraken have done that. And
Yeah, I mean, really a lot of similarities in the play you were saying as well. I mean, a lot of depth. So the book is called When It Mattered Most, and it's available on Amazon. Kevin Tyson, thank you so much. Great to have you this morning.